Good evening and hello, whatever time it is that you're watching this on recording. We are on week 4 of our habit building accountability session. And I don't know about you guys, but about a week and a half into this, I was like, why did we pick July? Why did I pick July for this? So if you're feeling that way, I want to encourage you. I'm going to talk about that a little bit at the end. First off, commend you. Thank you for hanging with us. Like, it seriously is, especially this week, getting on to convention and things are getting a little crazy. So just like give yourself a big pat on the back for your commitment to this. And we're going to just kind of wrap it up this week. And like I said, it's a crazy time of year. So if you were struggling to stay accountable to yourself, to your partner, to your goals, to what you're trying to put into place, just know that I think that the intention, we'll talk about this a little bit later, is really the most important piece. And knowing that as, schedules kind of start to slow down with people kind of coming back into regular routine, I think it'll be a really good time to revisit a lot of what we talked about during these 4 weeks. And I'll even try to kind of shoot off a few messages as we get into like August towards September, because I think that's a good time to start thinking about, if you weren't able to lay down as many habits during July as you'd hoped, because travel and quite honestly, a lot of just people, clients and things are checked out. If you weren't able to do that during July, August, September is a great time to lay down those routines. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go through just a couple of quick slides. And then we have a few other speakers that will join us. And we'll go from there. It's always interesting getting these slides going. I'm learning because there's a lag time. So then I sit and question if I actually pressed it or not. Okay. All right, here we go. So we are in week 4 and our topic today is living out loud every day. We're going to talk about vulnerability, authenticity, and at the end of the day, it's all about serving people. And so I hope that one of your takeaways from this week especially is that at the end of the day, our purpose is to serve others and to help them walk into the best version of themselves. And ideally, that everything that we do really comes out of a heart of wanting to serve and share with others. So, living out loud, what is it? Okay, so we are going to talk a little bit in terms of what we spoke about last week. Last week, we talked about living out loud and doing the 3x3x3. So just as a quick review, the 3x3x3 is a simple structure for us to just walk out, living out loud, because our whole purpose and intent, like I said, is to serve others and to share the gift that we've been given. And the best way to do that is to go out and share it and to live what we have been given. And the 3x3x3 is that structure for day in and day out. It's a really awesome system because it gives you the rules to follow if you're a rule follower. It gives you the roadmap if you are a structure person. But the flip side of the 3x3x3 is, in my opinion, we talked about last week's structure versus flow, and I said we'd talk a little bit about flow this week. And so to me, this is kind of not something that I necessarily have been coached in, but something that I have experienced as I live this whole journey out, both living my health out loud and living as a health coach and a business coach. But that there's a structure piece where we have to just sit down and we just have to build the time into our schedule, time block, make it happen. But then there's also a flow piece where we're out living our lives and we don't stop being a health coach just because we're not in our time block of starting conversations. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about what we do as Optavia coaches is that we live integrated lives. And so that means that we take our coaching with us everywhere. And it doesn't mean that we're always on the clock, but it does mean that it is about who we are. And so that's why I say here that living out loud is a matter of being versus doing. Doing is going to be a part of it, and doing is a very important part of building a business. It cannot grow without structure and without really embracing that work piece of it. But it also is about being. We talk about being Optavians. Dr. A will talk about that a ton this weekend, I'm sure, this coming end of the week with convention. We are Optavians. And what does that mean? What does that look like? We're going to talk all about that at convention. And we're always kind of talking about that. But just remembering that we get to go out and be who, we are becoming. And we can share that as we go wherever we are. And so living out loud is really, it's just a matter of taking where you were plus where you are currently plus where you are going, where you're headed, and just bringing it into your entire life. We don't have to, and we will do better if we don't put ourselves into containers or compartmentalize this coaching thing. It's meant to be pushed out throughout our life. And as we do that, we're setting people up for their own transformation. And truly, you are an inspiration. You may not realize it, but when you really stop and pause and think about your story and live boldly to share it, you are going to inspire people, and you're setting them up for success just by living your life. Of course, personal responsibility comes in there, and everyone has to choose to run their own race and to embrace their own journey and take that personal responsibility. But truly, you're setting people up for success just by living out loud. If you've read any of Brene Brown, any of her work, she talks a lot about owning your story. And that's a big part of living out loud. It's really taking stock of where you've been and where you are, where you're headed, and what you've overcome, what you're overcoming. It doesn't have to be past. It can be present and currently being worked out and walked out. But it's taking that story and saying, you know what, this is my story. Like, parts of it are kind of icky. Parts of it are pretty amazing. A lot of it has been wrestling with stuff. But this is my story, and this is what's come of the work that I've done, and being proud of that. And I would take it a step further and say, not just owning it, but loving it. Take your story and embrace it, and just know that, wherever you're at in your journey, whether you're in your, health journey, whether you're in your journey as a parent or a spouse or within friendships, whatever the case may be, wherever you're at in your journey, love what's happened to you, because it has brought you to where you are, and where you are is going to take you to where you want to go. So own your story and love it and share it. And so that being said, I want you to know it doesn't have to be scary, and that really at the end of the day, to put it really simply, it's about being led by your passion and compassion. So passion first, that's, the piece of us that is just on fire for what we've been able to experience through health coaching. And I should also pause here and just put a little asterisk that, like, this doesn't have to be limited to health coaching. These thoughts and principles, I think, can apply to any area of your life where you're wanting to share, where you're wanting to encourage, inspire, whether it's health coaching, whether it's your faith. But any of these places in our lives, I think we can take some of these principles and just pause and understand our story. We have to take some time to really dig into our story. But as we share it, being led by our passion for what we've experienced, whether, again, it's through our faith or whether it's through the health program or business coaching, whatever the case may be. But so let that passion for what you love drive you, but also your compassion for others and your desire to have others be able to step into something that they maybe have struggled with in the same way that you did. And so let that compassion for others shine through and really be rooted in it, so that when you're going out to live out loud, it's really all about others. Yes, it's your story, and so in a sense it's about you, but the purpose of sharing it is about others. And the second piece, this is going to tap a little bit into thinking about what maybe some of our fears are, or places that we're holding ourselves back. So I think it's really important to just kind of do that gut check from time to time, where you kind of dig into your determination to not be the obstacle in another person's path to freedom and transformation. And again, what I mean by that is we all have fears, and we all from time to time let those things stop us from sharing. And so I just encourage you to think about, I think I mentioned this last week too, but What if your coach hadn't shared their story? What if they had said, you know what, it's too much. And for some people, it's not the right time, and there's no shame in that. But the point being that I think if you're, listening to this right now, you're someone who really desires to make a difference and make an impact. And you're at a point where you can step a little bit out of your comfort zone because you've got a lot of people around you who can encourage you and help you to see the pieces that are going to really make a difference in the lives of others. So lean on your health coach, or your, business coach, your mentor, who's your health coach, and friends, and just, pick their brains as to what pieces of your story that they've seen you have the most transformation, and then talking through what maybe some of the fears that you have are for sharing that, and the different ways that we share. Sometimes people be a little hesitant to have a conversation in person. And so Angela is going to share in just a minute about how she's found really great natural ways to be led by her passion and compassion and have those conversations, because it's not about her. And she has walked through those, any obstacles that she may have had or fears that she may have had, come to the other side and has some really great words of wisdom for you. But that's just an example of something where if we don't kind of push ourselves through some of that fear and a little bit outside of our comfort zone, I don't want to, again, point fingers. There's no shame if you're not ready to share certain pieces, but we can hold other people back when we refrain from owning our story and loving our story and sharing our story. So on that note, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to hand over to Angela, who is going to share with us about starting conversations in person, because I didn't really mention, but I'll put you on spotlight, Angela, but we're going to just kind of take that 3x3x3 and make it into a flow. And Angela's going to kick us off with that.
All right. Well, I know real life conversations, it's so scary in this day and age, but actually I prefer talking with people in real life versus social media. I've said a lot of times I'd rather open my house to 100 people than to put a post on Facebook. So I like talking with people. But I think that initially I found it really difficult to have conversations with people about their health or about my health coaching. And I think part of it was because I felt like I didn't have any credibility. As time goes on, I feel like I have more credibility, of course. And I also didn't want to sound salesy. I'm not a salesperson. But at the same time, I wanted to tell everyone who I talked with about this amazing opportunity to improve their health. And so I kind of had to do a little reflecting, and I am not going to lie, I circled back to something my dad taught me early on. And that is always ask people about themselves. People love talking about themselves. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it is the best way to start a conversation. Ask people about them. It's so obvious, but how have you been doing? How is your summer going? What are your kids up to? Have you been traveling? Anything about them. That's the best way to make a connection, because you are very interested in them. You're not starting a conversation with the intention of telling them about what you're up to. The other great thing about starting the conversation with what they are up to is a lot of times they're going to say, "Oh, I saw your posts. What's going on with your health coaching?" It naturally leads itself into that sometimes. The other thing it does is if you ask people, "How have you been?" Typically they will say, if their dad taught them right, they will say, "I've been, doing XYZ. What about you?" So then you have an opportunity to, talk about your health coaching. But that was also tricky for me too at first. But I realized one of the most important ways to grow my business was to feel comfortable talking about what I do. And I think the other thing when I was circling back to what made this hard was my previous career was a 6th grade teacher. If you tell people you're a teacher, everyone knows what you're talking about. There's no need to elaborate. If you tell people you're a health coach, they're like, "Well, what does that mean?" And so I really had to think about what what I wanted to tell people and how to make it sound so it wasn't an MLM, and to make it sound like it was something that enticed people to have a conversation with me later about it. And so again, if they had talked about, how they were constantly on the go and they haven't been meal planning or, something in their conversation, you can kind of gravitate toward that and tailor what you talk about Optavia being to their needs. But the most important thing when you are starting a conversation is to ask about them, because you want it to be authentic and you want to make sure that people are going to, like I said, gravitate toward you if they know that you genuinely care. So circling back to the credibility and how to make it sound authentic, I have found that when I am talking, when people are like, oh, what is your health coaching thing about? Or what have you been up to? I focus on a few things that I'm really confident on. I am very confident that as a result of this program, I'm sleeping better. I'm confident I have healthier food in the house and I'm not buying as much junk. I'm super confident that my workouts are better. I'm confident my kids are eating better. Those are things that I will talk about. I don't talk about anything else about the program except for the things I feel really good about. And that, again, you don't have to be nervous when you've lived it. And again, it's not going to be perfect, but think about the things that really have gone well for you on program and talk about those in conversation. The other thing that I have found is that typically more is less. Less is more. That's what I meant. Less is more. And you want to just give people something to kind of think about and then circle back. If they say, oh gosh, I want to hear more about this, awesome. Let's set up a time to talk. Let's, give me your phone number and I'll reach out to you. I have my phone handy. Take the initiative to do that yourself. But ultimately, when you're talking about that 3, 3, and 3, what I have found to be the most useful thing is to just have genuine conversations with people. It doesn't have to be about health coaching. You want to broaden your horizons. You want to expand your circle of people who you care about and who are interested in what you're doing. And that's going to be the best way to kind of branch out and reach as many people as possible to help them with their health. That's what I got.
Awesome. Thank you, Angela. I'm switching our view here. That was amazing. That was fantastic. Like, Dad's words of wisdom are so great. But yeah, I love that. You're such a natural at sharing, just authentically who you are and I love that, what you're confident of. Like, I know this, and this, and those things that you're the most confident of are the things that people are most desperate for, right? I feel so much better. I have so much energy. I feel like I have control over my nutrition, and food doesn't control me, like those types of things. So awesome advice. All right. So next we're going to talk about living out loud on Facebook and really starting that conversation with people, kind of broad, not super between two people. How do I want to say that? I don't know. It's late. I'm tired. But you're kind of talking to different people, having a conversation, but yet you're really connecting when you're on a Facebook Live. And Elaine is just an incredible example of just vulnerability, authenticity, connecting, and really impacting and serving in this way. So I asked her to share, and she was so kind to do so. So take it away, Elaine.
Hey guys, how are you? Happy Monday evening. So I'm going to talk a little bit about living out loud in the realm of Facebook Live. It's something that in the world of coaching can be hard for a lot of people, me included, by the way. I, in some respects, think of myself as building my practice with a lot of consistency in Facebook Lives until fairly recently. And the reason that I say that is because that's honestly how I'm not a natural at like Angela, being out loud and in person with a ton of different people. That is not a comfort level for me. Where I am comfortable is sitting behind a computer screen, talking authentically in that way. And so I've really taken where I'm comfortable and used that to my advantage in helping other people. So let's talk about Facebook Lives. And first, let's talk about why. One of the reasons I was so passionate about sharing with people on Facebook Live is because some of the people that I was most inspired by in my own health journey, and not even just through Optavia, but in other realms of life on social media, they went live. I watched their videos. I felt like I knew them. I felt like I knew who they were and what their values were. And I started talking like them because they did a broadcast every day or every other day, and I watched them so much, right? They were my friends. Like internet friends, but you know what I mean. And so I knew that if I connected that way to people that were consistent about sharing their lives on Facebook Live, that people might actually connect with me too. And so one of the things I learned about social media is what we're trying to do is take social media and actually make it social. Most of us aren't actually social on social media unless you're a health coach and you're kind of pushed to do so, right? And what better way to be social than to see someone on video? So I knew that it would bring me to life. I knew that it would bring me to life in a space where I could reach a lot more people than I could out there pounding the pavement, which was not a natural skill of mine anyway. So that was the first prompt to share on Facebook Live. But let's talk about the thing that holds a lot of people back, and that is the fear. You say the word Facebook Live to a lot of people, and they go, oh, no. No, because it's like you imagine that there are like 30,000 people behind the screen, like booing you or making fun of you or not liking what you have to say or, judging you or whatever it is. I guarantee you they're not. Most people are thinking about themselves, and the people that and aren't even paying attention to you, and the people that do take the time to watch you, those are the people that you have the opportunity to touch. And so I actually see it as a gift and not one that we had until very, very recently. But here's the deal. You will always be scared. Every Facebook Live. I don't know how many I've done. I've at least done 100. If I had to guess, I haven't counted, but I would guess. And I'm scared every single one of them. So no, you will always be scared. The trick is there is no trick. You do it anyway. How do you get good at it? By doing it over and over and over again. There really isn't like kind of a trick. And where to start is my best thought process or advice in that is find a way to share your personal story. Optavia is an amazing program, you guys, but people aren't your clients because you have Optavia. They're not. People are your clients because they want to be coached by you. Because the way you listen to them, the way that you heard their story, the way that you look at them with compassion, they want that connection to you. They believe that you are the person to help guide them in their health. And so really what they're looking for is more of your heart, is more of your mind, is more of your story. And that's what Facebook Live is it's a gift to be able to utilize that to share with a ton of people. And honestly, when you think about it, think about this for real. When you see somebody else's vulnerability, what does that do? Does that make you feel connected to them? It does for me. It does for me. And so understand that when you share your vulnerability, it allows people to see themselves in you. And that's what makes the connection. And you make that connection with, like Angela said, face to face, or you make that connection face to face with not even have to see the person in person, right? You can wear your pajama shorts with a nice shirt on top. That's what I'm doing right now. And so for me, it's a super comfy way to connect with other people. So here's my best thought. Do you need some training wheels for Facebook Live? Does it scare the bejesus out of you when you think about going live? Have one of your coach friends interview you. Have your coach interview you. Ask someone to interview you. It's so much more comfortable for somebody to ask you questions. It's super fun. And when you have somebody else on live with you, it tends to get more traction. Or you interview someone else, interview a client, interview a friend. It might not even be about health. Who knows? Just get yourself out there. And lastly, I want to talk about impact. When I share of myself, when I share something impactful on Facebook Live, how do I know that people connect? I get multiple messages. I get people that I see a month later saying, oh my gosh, that Facebook Live, people think they know me and I don't know who they are. You guys, it's so impactful. It is so impactful. So if you haven't incorporated it into your practice, and you're not sure where to start, talk with your coach, figure out a game plan. It's really, really a gift that will give back to you in spades. That's all I have.
Oh, Elaine, thank you so much. Gosh, I love hearing the two of you and those of you who have shared previous weeks just talk and speak from your area of just passion and expertise and like where you kind of come alive. And that's just where you are when you talk about that, Elaine. And I love seeing it and hearing it. And we just glean so much from you, so much wisdom. My gosh, I learn a lot from you. And yeah, it was great. And I love that you kind of ended on impact, because that's kind of what I want to end on. We're at 8:30, so I want to wrap up the evening, but we're also on week 4 and we're kind of wrapping up our time together. So I'm going to go back to my slides really quick, and I just want to share a couple of things, and then we'll kind of close out the evening and the session. But hang on, resume slideshow. Okay, there we go. All right, we had Angela, we had Elaine. Okay, I don't know what I was saying, but wrapping it all up. So when I think about kind of the last 4 weeks, and I think one of the things I was going to say is that I really want to hear your feedback, your thoughts. You can put it in the chat. You can put it in our Facebook message. You can send me a private message. I have honestly loved these 4 weeks, like meeting with you guys and just really taking a few minutes every week to be intentional about like, where do we want to be intentional, right? And I love that we got to talk about our personal health, because it all hinges on that. I love that whatever week 2 was, I don't even remember, 3x3x3, like these are all things that, gosh, I mean, we could do trainings like, well, we do trainings every Monday, but you know what I mean? Like there's so many ways we could go, but it's been so fun to just kind of like hone in on key pieces. And we'll do it again, but I love your feedback. And the way that I want to kind of wrap this all up is just by kind of going back to what I said in the beginning of tonight, is that, July is a really hard time to implement anything. Let's be honest. At the end of June, I just really felt strongly led that I wanted to provide something that would prepare us for convention, that would set us up for post-convention success. And I don't have any regrets about that. But I also know that it's a tough time to like be in an accountability situation and be starting new habits and things like that. And so at the end of the day, what this is all about is it is about building in habits, and it's about intentionality. But what I really think the root and core of everything that we do is based on our convictions, which I hope we've touched on a little bit this evening of, our passion and our compassion for people are what are the most important driving forces in this. There's also our dreams, which we didn't really get to talk about tonight. And I actually have my Don't Quit Your Daydream shirt on. You can't see it because I shared my screen, but dreams are a really important piece of this too, because I think that, we have a vehicle, you guys, for taking us places in our life that we maybe never could have imagined. And that's not insignificant. Like, as I said earlier, it's not about us, but it's a big deal that through Optavia, we can do things that we maybe have only ever dreamed of. And we're going to circle back to that. But for now, I want to just remind us all that at the end of the day, it is about building in those habits, because the compound effect, everything that we do is going to hinge on our ability to lean into the compound effect and to just do those small steps every day. And that's what I wanted this time to be about. But what drives us to commit to that, because it takes effort, as we realized this month, whether it was an easy month for you to implement habits or a hard month for you to implement habits, I guarantee either way, it was still extra work. It was thought, it was intention. And I think that when we're when we're really rooted in established in our convictions, it's going to lead us into intention, and intention is going to lead us into habit, which is going to lead us into impact. And obviously you've read this already because I've been talking for like 5 minutes, but I just wanted to kind of back us up and go, you know what? It is important to build these habits, but what's going to get us to do it, right? And it's those convictions. And so we're going to, like I said, we'll talk more about dreams as we go. I'd love to kind of, I don't know, maybe dive into that after convention, and especially thinking about the ILAT trip, like if we're wanting to try and work towards that, tapping into our convictions and what we're dreaming of is really going to help us to lay down that foundation for action, and to really be consistent, because that's the other piece that we talked a lot about in the beginning, is that consistency. But I want to leave you with this and encourage you with this, that in fact, I'm going to stop share here so I can see y'all, and I'll put up the action steps. I might just put it in the group. But really, this whole time that we've had together, if you haven't laid down those really consistent habits each week, don't worry about it, but just go back and think about what we talked about each week, and think about what do you really want to focus on. And maybe it's as soon as we get back from convention, maybe it's September, but where do you really need to kind of put in your conviction and intention into establishing those habits, because you're going to compound effect your way into something really incredible as you choose to do that. So pick one thing, pick two things, but pick something, and just be intentional about building that habit. There's so many tricks, right? I mean, we talked a little bit during the time, like link it to something you're already doing. Start a conversation every day at breakfast. You're going to eat breakfast. Pretty soon it's a habit, that sort of thing. But just, I'll put up our action steps in the group. It's really just a lot about kind of reflection. And so I'll share that in the page. And just before we kind of log off tonight, because I want to respect everyone's time, does anybody have anything they want to share, like questions or comments, or how it's gone for you? Anything you've taken away from this time? I hope it's been valuable. Please come off of mute if you want to share.
Hey, Liz.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Steph.
So I went out of my comfort zone this last week, and somebody had mentioned, I don't remember who, doing a video message. So rather than I'd been using Messenger to connect with a couple people that were interested in hearing about the program, and had gone through a health assessment and decided my follow-up was going to be one of these video messages instead of just a text. And super awkward. And I even referenced that in the message, and I was just straight up. I just said, I'm going for a little bit more personal approach, a little face-to-face, thus the awkward video. And it was great. I think it makes a huge difference. And so I was kind of glad that I challenged, you guys challenged me, and I jumped out of my comfort zone a little bit and did it. And now I will totally do that. And I do feel like that is going to be more impactful than somebody receiving a text message from me. Granted, they might not be able to watch it right away depending on where they're at, but I don't know. I just felt like it was a much more personal approach. So that was my big win for the week, I guess.
That's a huge win. Congrats. I'm super excited about that. I mean, the thing about it is, I'm guessing you feel more connected to that person through doing that, right? And I love that you even call spade a spade. Like, I'm totally not used to this. I think that breaks the ice with people, like we don't have to be super slick and professional. And if we are, that's kind of weird too. So I hope that you feel more connected with that person, regardless of what the outcome ends up being, right? Because that's kind of what I try to remind myself is it isn't about the outcome. It's about the action and the intention and effort to connect with people.
Yep. Absolutely.
I love that. And on that same note, Liz and I and Eling, probably about a year or so ago, started using the Marco Polo app. I was kind of in and out, Liz. Did you talk about that at all in the last 5 minutes?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
So one thing I love about the Marco Polo app is for people who haven't done a video message like you, Steph, or who haven't done Facebook Lives, when you use the Marco Polo app to send messages back and forth between your coaches, maybe some of your clients, you just get used to seeing yourself talk. Like, it's just a weird thing. And so I know with some of my coaches, or some of the coaches on our teams that have started doing that, it increases your comfortability with video messages. So, or video, you know, seeing yourself talking. So maybe try linking arms with your coach if you haven't tried that Marco Polo app, and get good at that.
That is a really good point, to become more comfortable seeing yourself, talking at yourself, because Facebook Lives, even these Zooms, you know, all of these things are going to be, you know, you'll be stepping into these leadership roles before you know it, where you're doing these things. And so, that's a great point. Marco Polo is a good like warm up ground because it's very safe. Like, the only person that's going to see it is the person on the other end.
And you know what else? You can delete it if you don't like the way it turned out.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You know that?
Yeah.
Like at the bottom, it's like delete chat, and you're like, oh yeah, that didn't go well. Redo.
That's so funny. Unless the little watching pops up at the top where it's like,
Right. Then you're
we're
busted.
watching you.
Yeah.
Can't delete this one. Awesome. What else, you guys? Anything? Nothing? All right. I'm going to stop recording. Thank you, everyone, for joining us these last 4 weeks. We'll do it again, whether it's 1 week or 4 or 6 or whatever. We're not going to pull from all the other trainings to do a lot of this stuff, but I think from time to time it's really beneficial. So thank you for joining us, and